This is Danica Goes Global from Sky News Australia.
Hello and welcome to our brand new show, Danica Goes Global. And as the name suggests, we are going global, bringing you the latest news and cringiest interviews. And my guests and I will be here to break it all down. So let's start with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who has suffered the most criminal and humiliating public hallucination. So she's at the Munich Security Conference. And I know you might ask, why the heck is she at a conference in Germany? I don't know. The mind boggles. But let me set the scene. She goes over to Munich. The media says the world is watching. AOC gives clearer signal yet. She will run for White House in 2028 with very bold move to sink JD Vance. It says for the first time, Ocasio-Cortez will lay out her foreign policy vision on the world stage, which is, of course, exactly what aspiring presidential candidates tend to do. The New York Times went with AOC steps onto a wider stage. So here it is, all the hype. This is her big international debut, her moment to prove herself. So please, go on. Give us your foreign policy vision then, AOC.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is of course a very long-standing policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Right. Earth to Alexandria. Hello. Are you there? Are you with us? Time's ticking away. That was her big moment, her big foreign policy debut. I mean, I have not seen such a violent brain freeze since these good old days.
Homeland Security Secretary, I'm not sure going to do so away.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, roll another one, please.
For example, one of the reasons why I decided to talk about the need to deal with the operation and the gouging that occurs in some of the pricing of beef and chicken and other things is that that's why I think that's why I indicated to you we're going to look at whether or not there's a violation.
Oh, look, the nostalgia, by the way, the nostalgia. You see, the wheels were turning up there for AOC too, but it seems as though the brain-mouth connection just fails the Democrats. In fact, it's giving Joe off his marbles mixed with this.
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries.
It never gets old, does it? And when you think about it, the question that was asked to AOC was pretty straightforward, that you would think for a woman who apparently has a degree in international relations. So you'd think, well, she ought to know a thing or two then about international relations. Should the US commit troops to defend Taiwan? Fancy not even understanding the very basics of US foreign policy. I mean, all she had to do was talk about previous Democrat decisions on Taiwan. That would have been sufficient. Joe Biden once said US troops would defend the island if there was an unprecedented attack. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, when she was not taking the knee for Black Lives Matter and suffering from an acute and chronic case of TDS, well, heck, she even took herself off to Taiwan. Or AOC could have spoken about the threat of China, but she never did. Was this her idea of showing America's strength? Because China right now is taking notes. Xi Jinping is proud. He's going, yee-haw, get that woman into the White House. This is fantastic. But let's be clear. AOC should not be allowed anywhere near the Oval Office. Because again, we're going to roll it. Americans deserve better than this.
I think that this is such a, I think that this is this is, of course, a very long-standing.
Look, it gets worse. I know it's cringe. I won't run it again. But I'll point out she has form when it comes to international politics, because who could forget this classic from 2018 when she was asked about the Middle East?
You used the term the occupation of Palestine. What did you mean by that?
I think what I meant is like the settlements that are increasing in some of these areas and places where Palestinians are experiencing difficulty in access to their housing and homes.
Do you think you can expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd also I am not the expert on geopolitics on this issue.
Blow me down. Really? I would never have guessed. And now back to Munich, because it didn't end there for AOC. She seems to really be taking cues from the Democrats' public speaking guide for dummies. Now have a listen to this and ask yourself, please, who does it remind you of?
I think what we identify is that in a rules-based order, hypocrisy is vulnerability. And so I think what we are seeking is a return to a rules-based order that eliminates the hypocrisies around when too often in the West we look the other way for inconvenient populations to act out these paradoxes.
Sorry? Sorry, what? What on earth is she on about? Let's give her another go.
So I think one of the reasons why, not just myself, but many of our colleagues here, in fact, many Democrats that are here as well, is because we want to tell a larger story, that what is happening is indeed very grave. And we are in a new era, domestically and globally. There have been many leaders who've said we will go back. And I think we have to recognize that we are in a new day and in a new time.
A new day and a new time. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm still none the wiser as to what that character is on about. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have a new word salad queen. You know what's coming, don't you?
That's why we're here today. Because we have the ability to see what can be, unburdened by what has been. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
Oh, look, I don't miss that. But Alexandria and Kamala, both as dumb as a box of rocks. In fact, I'll go as far as saying I think that AOC is dumber than Kamala. Kamala may even be more coherent, and she's never sober when delivering a speech. A couple of wines and a word salad, that speaks volumes. As Senator John Kennedy once said of AOC,
I think she's the reason there are directions on a shampoo bottle.
Oh, it never gets old, and he's not wrong. Now, speaking of embarrassments on the world stage, the Ken doll from California, Gavin Newsom, has left the palatial mansion, and he and his hair transplant are also in Munich at the very same conference where he was warning about the climate Armageddon.
You may not believe in science, but you got to believe your own eyes. I mean, people are burning up, choking up, heating up. We have simultaneous droughts and floods. Historic wildfires. You know maybe little about California. You've seen those images of these wildfires.
Oh, Gavin. He's got to stop the sun from shining, is he? Because that's going to solve everything. And he talks there about bushfires. Is this the same Ken doll who came out for a photo opportunity after photo opportunity while LA burned last year? And remember, he blamed a lack of water, then later admitted that water ran out and hydrants were empty. Gavin, that's your fault. That's not climate change. But he went on.
Donald Trump is doubling down on stupid. Never in the history of the United States of America has there been a more destructive president than the current occupant in the White House in Washington, D.C. It is code red in terms of American leadership in this space. Low carbon, green growth.
Code red. And just when you thought, surely that's enough Gavin for one day, his TDS, which had just been really flickering inside of him throughout his speech, suddenly burst.
I hope, if there's nothing else I can communicate today, Donald Trump is temporary.
Really?
He'll be gone in 3 years.
Right.
California is a stable and reliable partner in this space. And it's important for folks to understand the temporary nature of this current administration in relationship to the issue of climate change and climate policy.
Ugh. Poor old Gavin in his usual state of desperation, lack and delusion. Fancy saying that Trump is temporary when 77 million Americans backed him as the leader of the free world. The message there from Gavin to Europe is, don't worry, one day we're just going to roll over. We're going to join you on your climate crusade. We're going to spend billions and billions on green energy, send ourselves broken backwards in the process, model your mass immigration policies, and couple that with your woke gender ideology. And while Gavin was in Germany, his wife was back in California. And I mean, at least they weren't anywhere near each other because, you know, she loves to steal his spotlight.
No, we just find it incredulous that we have Planned Parenthood here and women are 51% of the population. And the majority of the questions, all of these questions have really been about other issues. So it's just fascinating. You have this incredible women's caucus and all these allies, and you're not asking about it. And this happens over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, I wonder what old hair transplant thought of that one. But I digress. Now, as I was saying, she was at home, funnily enough, making a fool of herself as well.
When you spend too much time in your bubble of wealth,
the hands, the gesticulations, incredible. But spoken like a woman whose husband is worth $30 million. Isn't it just beautiful? So all in all, it was a weekend of the Democrats' International Muppet Show. What a time to be alive. Well, joining me now is conservative political commentator and digital creator Brittany Hughes. Brittany, it's wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining me. Look, we've got to start with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's disaster of sorts on the world stage. Wasn't it just shocking? So she firstly has this brain freeze where she's asked a foreign policy question about Taiwan. She can't answer it. And then she proceeds to go on a word salad. And I've got to say, she makes Kamala Harris seem coherent, which is saying something. But my question, Brittany, is how on earth do the Democrats think that this could be the woman to take them to 2028?
I have absolutely no idea. Look, I don't know if maybe she and Kamala Harris sidled up to the same bar or something beforehand. It was absolutely insane and embarrassing. And look, I think what you have here, because a lot of people have been comparing, a lot of her comments in Munich to, for example, Secretary of State Marco Rubio's speech, right, which was extremely eloquent and very solid. And I think just really shows what an example of, a very experienced statesman can be like. And then you've got AOC over here who is just falling all over herself. The word vomit is all over the floor. It's ridiculous. And look, unfortunately, we live in a country where anybody, just about can win a congressional district if you've got a solid enough social media ground game. But making TikToks doesn't make you smart. It doesn't mean you know what you're talking about. This is a woman that couldn't find Taiwan on a map, much less speak intelligently about it. So unfortunately, this is where we're at. But frankly, as far as I'm concerned, if Democrats want to make this woman their front runner, if this is who they want to push to the forefront, if this is who they want to run for president, go for it. Please, by all means, absolutely let AOC run. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats will never, ever get in again with AOC as the front runner. And you're right, did she go to a bar beforehand? She's had so much time to prepare for this big moment on the international stage, and she absolutely squandered it. I couldn't agree more. But I want to actually ask you about that speech by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. I thought that it was a real masterclass in international relations. Let's have a listen to it.
We are part of one civilization, Western civilization. We are bound to one another by the deepest bonds that nations could share, forged by centuries of shared history, Christian faith, culture, heritage, language, ancestry, and the sacrifices our forefathers made together for the common civilization to which we have fallen heir.
Brittany, I thought his speech was really interesting. This was delivered to Europe for Europe, and he's basically saying, hey, pull your weight and protect Western civilization. And I just thought it was wonderful to have such a strong speech like this that's pro the West, and Lord knows we need some pro the West content right now, but also anti-mass migration. What was your take on it?
Look, I thought it was really solid, and what I appreciate is that he does not apologize for promoting Western civilization. Right now, what we have, particularly in the United States, and I think across many parts of Europe, is you have all of these apologists that are, that seek to downplay Western civilization and the effect that it has had on humanity, and the fact that it has, it has brought, more people out of poverty and starvation, out of slavery. I mean, the West did that. The West is the reason that we have so many advancements in the human race right now, and that we're actually able to go to third world and developing nations and assist. All of that has been built by Western civilization. And we make absolutely no apologies for that. But the way that you destroy Western civilization is to import just unmanageable numbers of people from cultures that neither understand nor respect Western civilization. That does not mean that these people are, just inherently bad or anything like that. But we're talking about controlled migration and the fact that the Western civilization has been able to do what it has done because, migration throughout its history has been largely controlled. So I think that it was solid. I think it was unapologetic. I think it's more of what America and Europe need right now. I think you see across many parts of Europe, they're just as sick as many people in the United States of America when it comes to endless mass migration that has completely destroyed many parts of Europe and turned them into third world countries that the people that were born there don't even recognize. And that's exactly what's happening in many parts of my country. I know it's happening across parts of the UK, and people are tired of it. So I think this was very refreshing.
Yeah, and it's also happening here in Australia, and this is why we need these sorts of conversations, because a lot of politicians do shy away from it because of the fear of being tarnished with the racist brush. No, it's not racist to have a discussion about mass migration. It's not racist to say, hey, there are people that we are bringing in from certain cultures whose values are incompatible with a Western democracy. So I absolutely applaud Rubio for getting out there and saying it like it is, and saying it in front of Europe, who has uncontrolled borders and so many migration problems. So look, good on him. One of the highlights, though, for me over the weekend, Brittany, was Hillary Clinton. Now, she has been savaged for her Trump derangement syndrome on the world stage. So she was going on quite a deranged rant about Donald Trump, as she always does, because she's like a wind-up toy. There's nothing better to say. The Clintons have never got anything positive to say. And then in comes the Deputy Prime Minister of the Czech Republic, who shut her down. Have a look at this.
He has betrayed the West. He's betrayed human values. He's betrayed the NATO Charter, the Atlantic Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. A lot of what has been done before to try to make sense of how difficult it is to restrain people who want unaccountable power. And none of us in this room, including all of us on this panel, would choose to live under a regime that was so unaccountable that it could act with impunity the way that Putin does, except that's who Trump is modeling himself after.
Well, first, I think you really don't like him.
That is absolutely true. But I really, not only do I not like him, I don't like him because of what he's doing to the United States and the world. And I think you should take a hard look at it if you think that there is something good that will come out of it.
What I think Trump is doing in America, I think it is reaction for something for some policies that really went too far from the regular people, too far from reality. So we saw the cancel culture.
Yes.
We saw the woke revolution.
Oh, I mean, he was absolutely on point. He did not miss. And as for Hillary Clinton, well, she didn't expect that, did she?
No, she likes people kissing her butt, and that's what too many people do. Look, I don't know why in the world this washed up old rag was even sitting on that panel in the first place. She just needs to go away at this point. She has nothing of value to add. This is what happens when you have Trump derangement syndrome to the point where it rots your brain and apparently your face. Look, all she's got is this fantasy that so many on the left in this country are living out, where they almost want to live in 1930s Germany. It's like a fetish. It's extremely disturbing. And so they continue to pretend that Donald Trump is a fascist, that he's an autocrat. The irony of sitting there in Munich and talking about, living under a dictator. We don't have a dictatorship in this country. But, again, it's absolutely correct to say that Donald Trump is a reaction to so many of the far left and woke policies that we saw pushed under Barack Obama, that we saw pushed under Joe Biden. I mean, we had a border crisis that was just, absolutely unbelievable under Joe Biden. Millions of people pouring into this country that we didn't know where they were coming from. We didn't know if they meant us harm. We had no idea if they were criminals. We were losing track of hundreds of thousands of migrant children that should have been protected. You couple that with some of the far left LGBTQ propaganda that's being shoved down our kids' throats in our classrooms. We have drag queens stripping for toddlers. It's absolute madness. And so, yes, what you saw with the tens of millions of people that voted for Donald Trump was simply American people who wanted to return to sanity. We just want normal. And if that sounds fascist to Hillary Clinton, quite frankly, the reason that she's sitting there in Munich running her mouth about Donald Trump now years after 2016 is because he beat her. He wasn't supposed to beat her, and he did. And she's still salty about it.
Yeah, she's still salty about it all these years later. You're absolutely spot on. And you may make a good point. I don't know why they keep rolling her out. She doesn't have anything to offer. She is a has-been. Please spare us from Hillary Clinton. Now, the White House border czar, Tom Homan, he has just announced that 1,000 ICE agents have left Minnesota's Twin Cities area and hundreds more will depart in the days ahead. But I thought this was interesting because he said that a small security force will stay. Here is Tom Homan laying it down.
He sent me to Minneapolis to do three things. De-escalate, done. Take public safety threats off the street, over 4,000 illegal aliens were arrested, done. Gain cooperation from state and local law enforcement so it makes the agent's job safer to arrest a public safety threat in the safety and security of a facility, done. But even though we're drawing down resources, we still want to have hundreds of special agents here drawing down on the fraud here from the Somatic community and others. Those fraud investigations can continue until they're done. We're going to hold people responsible.
So, Brittany, okay, yep, the contingent will be smaller, but the reality is Donald Trump's resolve is still there.
Absolutely. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Tom Homan several times and speaking with him. And I can tell you, this is a guy who is going to get the job done. That is his entire goal. He is singularly focused and he is there to be efficient and to do his job. And he makes no bones about the fact that he does not want criminal aliens on our streets, whether in Minnesota or anywhere else in this country. The other thing, too, by the way, that he didn't highlight right there that I think is notable is that ICE was actually able to track down over 4,000 missing children that had gone unaccounted for under the Biden administration during this operation in Minnesota. So I think that's massive. I mean, we're talking about kids that we didn't know where they were or what was happening to them. Many of them have been found in, trafficking situations, forced labor. So there's that. But look, I think that the Democrats were trying to take some sort of victory lap and make this sound like, oh, well, Tom Homan's got cold feet and, we scared him out of Minnesota. Not at all. We've got surges happening all across this country where once the initial job is done, ICE, backs up and goes somewhere else. I mean, you're talking about a country of over 340 million people that spans, thousands upon thousands of miles. And so it's not like you can just have a constant ICE presence everywhere all at once. So it makes sense that the initial push would be done. But Tom Homan, make no mistake, Tom Homan is not going to leave if he feels like there is still work for ICE to be doing in Minnesota or anywhere else, quite frankly.
No, and I mean, as you said, I feel like he is a man of his word. He is strong and he is determined. And again, he is acting on a mandate that Donald Trump was elected for to get rid of illegals so that the left can complain all they want, but he's doing the job that he was set out to do. So, good on him. Now, Brittany, I just want to change pace a little bit. I thought it was funny this week, Donald Trump, he fired back at the hapless and desperate Bill Maher. The host went on a late night rant. So he's criticised the president over climate inaction, global warming, the usual nonsense that the left peddles. But don't forget that Maher and the president had dinner together last year in March. Now, Trump has absolutely destroyed him in a lengthy Truth social media post, which read, "He came into the famed Oval Office much different than I thought he would be. He was extremely nervous, had zero confidence in himself, and to soothe his nerves, immediately within seconds asked for a vodka tonic. But then I noticed his show started to devolve into the same old story. Very boring, anti-Trump. Bill continues to suffer from a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome, and there is nothing that will ever be done to cure him of this very serious disease." I love this. I absolutely love this. I mean, I just feel like Donald Trump's post is more funnier than Bill Maher, who claims to be some sort of a comedian. What is it with these lefties?
Look, I'll give Bill Maher at least a modicum of credit in the fact that he's not quite as bad, maybe, as some of the further left, late night hosts. But look, I think this is what so many people love about Donald Trump was that he cuts through all of the bull. He's going to tell you like it is, and he's going to sit there and he's going to blast it out on social media. If, hey, look, this is a guy that came crawling into the Oval Office, really wanted to be there, was chumming up to me. But then when it's expedient for him, he's going to go on a show with all of his liberal buddies and he's going to talk a completely different game. And I think that that's what people appreciate about Donald Trump is kind of what you see is what you get versus so many of these leftists who all of it is it's smoke and mirrors, right? It's sitting there saying whatever you think your audience is going to like or what you think your friends in Hollywood are going to like rather than what you actually believe. And so again, I thought it was hilarious. But you're right. Bill Maher hasn't been funny. I don't remember the last time I watched one of these shows, quite frankly. Their ratings are in the toilet because people are sick of this nonsense.
Yeah, because again, the majority of Americans voted for Donald Trump. They don't want to sit there and watch Donald Trump be absolutely destroyed. They want to actually see him gets the credit he deserves. These comedians are not funny. Now, Brittany, before we let you go, I have to end on this. Kamala Harris has gone to her favourite place. She's back at the bar. Yes, her favourite place in the world. Have a look at this.
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Very well. How are you doing?
Excellent.
Good.
Feeling better now.
You create a wonderful environment here.
Yeah, we really, it's very cultivated. Got a lot of history here.
Which milkshake did you get? I'm getting a Mardi Gras milkshake.
I got a strawberry. I'm a strawberry milkshake.
Yeah, I'm sure her milkshake had some vodka in it as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised she wasn't just sitting there doing tequila shots. I just want to know, was she drunk when she got there or,
Probably.
I mean, look, just ridiculous. Of course she got the Mardi Gras milkshake. I don't really want to take that thought too much farther, though, because it gets very disturbing very quickly. But look, Kamala Harris, I mean, what can I say? This is a woman that I think she still has grandiose visions of her political future. I'm not sure who I want to run more, her or AOC. It's really kind of a toss-up. I'd be happy with either one, quite frankly. We beat her once. We can do it again. Yeah. But, oh, Kamala.
Yeah.
Just have another one, honey, and sit down.
Yeah, have another one, Kamala. Rest your head on the bar table. Just relax. I agree.
We've all been there.
We've all been there, but let's be honest, Kamala has been there more than most. Let's not beat around the bush here. Brittany Hughes, you're absolutely brilliant. It's been wonderful to have you on the program. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for the invite anytime.
Now it is time for the Hall of Shame, where every week I'm going to name and shame. Coming in at number 5 is Democrat Representative LaMonica McIver, who's having a totally normal one. Now, she was attempting to question ICE bosses at Capitol Hill about their operations, and I'm going to play you this. Here she was asking Acting Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Todd Lyons questions. And let's play this. Totally, truly abnormal stuff.
He asks you some questions that you may be able to answer. Mr. Lyons, do you consider yourself a religious man?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, how do you think Judgment Day will work for you with so much blood on your hands?
What?
I'm not going to entertain that question.
Oh, okay, of course not. Do you?
Okay, sorry. She's there to ask him questions about ICE operations, and then she goes into some sort of religious line of questioning. And it didn't end there, because have a listen to this bit.
You think you're going to hell, Mr. Lyons?
I'm not.
Do you think you're going to hell, Mr. Lyons? Okay, let's not forget LaMonica is a woman who's been charged with assaulting federal agents. Let's continue.
Not going to end.
Of course not. How many government...
The gentlelady will suspend. The gentlelady will suspend.
Chairman.
So I just had to stop it there. The gentle lady? Is that some sort of gender neutral thing? Gentle lady what?
A gentlelady will suspend. As I said, the issues we're debating here are important to ones that members feel deeply about.
Thank you.
While vigorous disagreement is part of the legislative process, members are reminded that we must adhere to established standards of decorum and debate. The witnesses are here voluntarily, and I will continue to remind members that while oversight is important, aggressively attacking those witnesses personally is inappropriate and not in keeping with the traditions of our committee.
Here she comes again.
I'm just asking a question. You guys are always talking about religion here in the Bible. I mean, it's okay for me to ask a question, right?
Look, do you know what? LaMonica, okay? The problem here with this is that she hasn't quite grasped what professionalism is. You don't ask those sorts of religious questions. And may I point out that America was founded on Judeo-Christian values. Not really the smartest move, but what else would we expect from a Democrat? Now, coming in at number 4, I have to give it to Jimmy Kimmel, okay? This guy really thinks that he is, the king of comedy, the God's gift to comedy. But the thing is that his Trump derangement syndrome has sent him bonkers. I'm going to play for you now his latest deranged rant. Have a look.
His awards and for everything to be named after him. The Kennedy Center, Dulles Airport, Penn Station. I mean, if that's the way to keep him happy, why? I have another suggestion for something we could name after him, and it's big, and I think he'll like it because it's something everyone's talking about, something that he actually, unlike most everything else he wants named after him, deserves to be a part of. And I propose that we should think about adding his name to the Epstein files, or as they...
There it is. There it is.
Your cooperation and the cooperation of others will heretofore be known as the Trump Epstein files.
No, stopping it there. Look, it's just, the thing is, it's just not funny, okay? He hasn't learned anything. He says that Trump should be named or added to the Epstein files, the Trump Epstein files, as he said, okay? Firstly, your show needs to be cancelled for good. Secondly, he's not normal. And thirdly, if he's not crying on television over Trump or crying over ICE arrests, that was his latest crime because, well, let's be honest, he always thinks he's the victim, then he's making up lies and attacking Donald Trump. Jimmy, how about step down? Go retire, just please get the help that you really need. Now, coming in third place on the Hall of Shame, well, actually, I'll start this. Let me preface by saying I've got to give you a trigger warning here. I hate to inform you, good folk of America, but guess who's back in town? Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie is back in the US. Can you believe it? So I've given her third on the Hall of Shame this week because remember she self-ejected and placed herself in exile in Ireland, yet, whoa, she's returned to the US for a family visit. She said, and I quote, "I was recently home for 2 weeks and I did not really tell anyone." This is what she told in an interview. "I just went to see my family. I wanted to see how hard it would be for me to get in and out of the country. I wanted to feel what it felt like. I wanted to hold my children again, and I hadn't been home in over a year." Sorry, Rosie, there's evidence. Remember when you vowed never to come back? Let me show you this one.
Although I was never someone who thought I would move to another country, that's what I decided would be the best for myself and my 12-year-old child. And here we are.
And here we are. Here we are. And
I
here
miss
we are.
my other kids. I miss my friends. I miss many things.
Great. I'm going to stop it there because you know what? We don't miss you, Rosie. And the funniest thing about this is both she and Ellen DeGeneres, they left the US because of Trump, and both have since returned. They didn't even last a year. Incredible, isn't it? Now, second on the Hall of Shame ladder is Prince Harry. He's lost it. He's lost it. He gets let off the Meghan leash for a day and, you know, she loosens the grip a little bit. So he goes out in public and what happens? He has a breakdown. Now, let me just try and paint the scenario for you before I show you this next clip. So Harry has been swanning about London, not catching up with his father, not catching up with his family, but he was in court as part of his never-ending vendetta against the British press. And so now he's gone out in Los Angeles to give an address to grieving parents who are blaming social media for the deaths of their children. But here's the thing. Once again, he's made it all about himself. Let me play this.
But when you're sitting in court, and if you have that feeling of just overwhelming emotion because you can't believe that the people on the other side are saying what they're saying, that by the very nature of them defending what they're defending, the lies that they are stating, is devaluing life, is devaluing your children's lives. If that brings stuff up for you, it is totally normal. Do not feel ashamed, do not feel concerned, even if the judge, as I heard, turned around and asked you not to show emotion. As I said, none of you should be here.
I just want to pick up on that point. He said that the judge told him that he's not allowed to show emotion. No. That's not actually what happened, okay? The judge told him to answer the questions. Answer the questions. That's a very, very big difference to what Harry's saying there. But anyway, continue.
So, thank you for doing everything that you've done. Thank you for telling your stories over and over again. Truth, justice, and accountability. Those are the three things that will come from this.
Right. Truth, justice, and accountability. Okay. Well, firstly, cue the crocodile tears. The usual Harry fake tears. So he is out there speaking to grieving parents, but he's talking about his own court case. So he's made it all about himself. What has their plight got to do with you? Woe is me, Harry, please spare us. And again, if you were sitting in that audience, I mean, they're obviously being polite listening to him, but they're listening to the chronic Harry victim mentality that we see all the time. But here's the next thing. Meghan goes on social media on Valentine's Day, posts this picture of Harry and Lilibet. No Archie in sight. Now, whatever happened to the privacy of their kids' faces not being shown? What happened to the privacy? No, our kids are never going to be on camera. They'll never be shown. Hello? We can see Lilibet. And Harry has just literally warned parents about the dangers of children being on social media. And next minute, Meghan, PR mode, posts a full-faced photo of their daughter on Instagram. These two are absolute hypocrites. Let me tell you that. He's not well. Okay, let's be honest. He's not good. This is another Montecito money grab. And now, drum roll please, number 1 on the Hall of Shame goes to former ESPN reporter Sarah Spain. Bear with me. She's been given an incredible opportunity to go and cover the Winter Olympic Games in Milan and to cheer on Team USA. Amazing. Well, Sarah has squandered her opportunity. Why? Because she's absolutely all-consumed, preoccupied, exhausted, thanks to her chronic and acute case of Trump derangement syndrome. And this is bad. Somebody call an ambulance because, my goodness, she needs it. So she's covering a US women's hockey team match and she posts this photo as Vice President JD Vance and his child enter the arena. Now, as you can see here, it's a picture of JD Vance and his child. And she posts the caption, "Oop, just vomited in my mouth." Sorry? You had a little gag because a man that you don't like came to watch the team you support with his own child? Well, you obviously were not doing your job too well there, Sarah, because if you weren't concentrating on the match, then what were you doing? Oh, concentrating on your own vom. And it gets worse. She then went on to give us a play-by-play. She says 12 minutes into the first period, that arena suddenly is awash with large men in suits with earpieces, and here comes JD Vance carrying a child and a bunch of security, and eventually Marco Rubio. When I see JD Vance's eyeliner face, I literally feel ill. I feel like I just looked at the demon, like a devil. I don't even believe in that. My body felt like when you have been spooked and you have a little tingle that feels like, oh, something's not right. Or like when you get in a situation and you feel like, oh, some of the energy's bad. Something could go wrong here. Maybe I should get out of here, or something's dangerous. This doesn't feel right. I mean, seriously. That's what my body felt like. And I was in no way prepared to see him. It made me so angry. And not just because his effing Secret Service were blocking half the ice. Like, we're trying to watch a hockey game. And here's the perler. You ruined it. She says, you ruined it. Now, is this not a prime example of who JD Vance calls a crazy cat lady? And then have a look at this video.
Just give you a heads up that if you see some weird comments on my Instagram that I haven't had the chance to delete yet, it's because I got called out for criticizing a pedophile protecting American who was executed by ICE slandering person. And some of the people who are so cotton-headed that they will defend literally anything done by this person are sliding into my mentions to call me fat, tell me they hope I die and get cancer. So if you see one of those, don't be confused. It's just people who are currently in favor of what our administration is doing in this country, and I couldn't give two shits about their opinion of me. Let's care more about people who are protecting those who rape kids and murder American citizens than the journalists who call them out for it.
Sorry, what is she saying there? That Americans, that the Trump administration is covering up pedophiles? Firstly, that smug smile on her face, just casual, I don't care what you think about me. Well, you went all the way to Italy and you had a mentee bee because JD Vance was there, and you go on a deranged rant and then you claim to be the victim. This is a TDS cry for help. No normal person sees a man with a child and has such a crazed meltdown. But it's so typical of liberal women, isn't it? See a man you don't like, call him a demon, and say, he ruined my day. Well, US Attorney General Pam Bondi has released all of the Epstein files, including justified redactions and a list of high-profile names appearing in the documents. Joining me to discuss the fallout from the files in the US and the UK is Samara Gill, host of Triggered with Samara Gill on Talk TV. It's great to have you on the show, Samara. Thank you so much for joining me. Look, I've got the list of names in my hot little hand. And I've got to say there's so many of them. You've got even Pam Bondi herself is named, Cher, Jay-Z, Michael Jackson, Mick Jagger, Diana, Princess of Wales. And I guess this is a thing because we don't know the context. We don't know why they're named. There's also presidents like Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Donald Trump. I guess my argument in this, Samara, is the Democrats have spent the past couple of months trying to pin down Donald Trump on this. Well, hello, the files are here. He's just released them. To me, he's been vindicated.
I think you're completely right, Danica. He is the one who actually did release them. And that's kind of what Pam Bondi was banging on about at the hearing just a couple days ago, because, you know, they were really trying to pin her on why was this redacted? Why wasn't that redacted? And it's true. He has actually been the most transparent president of them all. He has done what he said he would do in his election promise, which is release all the files. And he's done just that. And yes, look, I mean, there were millions and millions of pages, and there was a lot of sort of disquiet and discomfort from within some of the political figures over there, because yes, there were some issues where names that were meant to be redacted weren't redacted. Names like Les Wexner, who was implicated in a child sex trafficking scandal, they had accidentally redacted that. So yes, I will say it wasn't the most sort of clean and concise layout of all the files, but my God, what a ripple effect it has had on the world. We've seen heads rolling from Westminster to Florida to Washington, to all over the world. So I just really do think that we should commend Donald Trump for actually releasing them, and Pam Bondi for doing her bit and putting the pressure on.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to get into the ripple effect with you, because you're right, it's been huge. And look, my argument is, I mean, Joe Biden's administration tried everything over the past 4 years to try and jail Donald Trump, yet now they try to incriminate him for wrongdoing. Well, for what? They've spent years desperate to get rid of Trump in every way. Had they already had evidence, they would have released it by now, but they haven't done that. So, look, this is a real vindication of Donald Trump. And it's interesting because you mentioned that hearing, and watching it, it was like pulling your teeth out the way that the Democrats were attacking Pam Bondi. They were yelling and screaming, literally throwing the toys out of the cot. I thought it drifted into obsession territory, that they're desperate for a gotcha moment. So let's have a listen to this performance by Democrat Representative Ted Lieu.
These two photos staring you in the face are evidence of a crime, and more than enough evidence to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew. So I ask you, Attorney General Pam Bondi, why did you shut down this investigation last July, and why have you not prosecuted former Prince Andrew?
I don't believe you asked Merrick Garland these questions when he was Attorney General and set before.
I agree with you.
You twice.
I've been claiming my time. I agree with you. I agree with you. During the Biden administration, I called for people looking at Epstein files. Merrick Garland dropped the ball, as did Attorney General Bill Maher, as did Alex Acosta, a whole string of failures. But you are in charge. You have the power to change things, to hold these men accountable, and you're doing the opposite. You're protecting them.
What a spectacle, Samara. So, what an absolute spectacle. They made it some sort of theatre production all about themselves. Now, look, I'm not disputing the fact there needs to be an investigation, of course, but Donald Trump has also said the same, but they've turned it all into an absolute performance.
Totally. It was a psychodrama playing out on the political stage over there. And you're right, they just can't handle the truth. And they're actually undermining the entire situation of revealing the documents when they say, this photographic these photos of Prince Andrew are evidence. Well, they're actually not, and I'm no defender of Prince Andrew, but they can't just start blaming because of one photo what's actually been going on. Of course, Andrew needs to be fully investigated, and I am behind that, but they're pulling at straws here, and they're basically trying to almost skip 10 different steps in order to try and pin the Republicans in order to actually go through the proper process. And it's quite crazy how Pam Bondi had to bat all these people off yesterday that were actually trying to undermine her efforts. I mean, it's ludicrous. The Democrats are just once again showing how deranged they are with the Trump derangement syndrome, that they just can't handle when even when the thing that they want the most happens, they won't accept it. It baffles me, Danica, genuinely.
Yeah, look, it baffles me too. And in the end, it was Donald Trump that sort of raised the alarm in the beginning. I mean, he was warning about Jeffrey Epstein, and he was also saying, Ghislaine Maxwell, he knew from the beginning. He was warning police about this. So, again, you're right.
He's been cooperated, yeah.
Totally. Spot on. I completely agree. Look, we've got to talk about the man formerly known as Prince Andrew. And I want to start with on all fours Andrew, okay? Because this image, I have to say, look, you don't ever recover from something like this. It's ghastly. It's embarrassing. I mean, that's just putting it mildly. He has been troublesome for years, but my goodness, Samara, that picture, shocking.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me sick to think about the potential situation that woman must have been in. She clearly, looks passed out. I mean, the fact that people even thought to get a camera out in that situation and just start clicking just gives you a very healthy insight into exactly the mind of this sick individual that was Epstein and that was Andrew, who they were very close. I mean, there's no denying that. So, yeah, I mean, this photo that's come out, it's very revealing. But what's also been very big news over here is who was in charge of the payment. Now, there was obviously this payment that was made to Virginia Giuffre, rest in peace, who was one of the alleged victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew, formerly Prince Andrew. And essentially what's come out is that the king may have potentially put money in for that. The queen obviously did, and Prince Philip. So there are big questions being raised about how culpable the royal family has been in covering a lot of this up. I mean, that photo, date-wise, was taken when he was meant to be a special trade envoy to the United Kingdom. He was meant to be on business, but he was not clearly doing that, or that doesn't exactly look like trade envoy relations to me. So I think that he should not be above the law. The police in his area are also saying that he should absolutely be investigated. But let's see, because unfortunately the royal family and the late queen, as we love her, she never really put a foot wrong, but Andrew was mummy's favorite, her favorite child. And a lot of this was covered up for years. And we're just hearing about it now.
Well, that's the thing. He was the favourite child. He was decorated. He was mummy's boy. And I love the late Queen Elizabeth, but surely she had to have known. There's no way in my mind that she was unaware of her son's activities. Which also brings me to the point of the palace, because there would have been staff there. They would have seen what was going on, the comings and goings within the palace. It was also revealed that there was a creepy code word that Andrew used when ordering palace staff to let a string of young women in for visits. Now, this is really shocking, Samara. He allegedly used a word. This is according to The Sun. It says that emails released as part of the Epstein files show several women entered the palace with the former prince's permission after being supplied by his pedo pal. They included a Romanian model and another from Russia, both treated to a private dinner while the Queen was away in Balmoral. Sources told The Sun a string of young women were invited to the palace by Andrew, and he made a specific paraphrase. So this paraphrase, Andrew is thought to have said to them, "Mrs. Windsor will arrive shortly. Please let her in and show her up." So Mrs. Windsor will arrive shortly. Look, Samara, again, palace staff, they would have seen the women coming and going. Surely they would have seen the sleazy behaviour, the seedy behaviour. They need to be interviewed, in my view.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, what were they meant to do? I mean, the issue here is, and Andrew Lowney, who's a famous royal biographer, writes about it so well in his book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York, which is a very, very good novel if you really want to delve into this, because it shows just how pompous and drunk on his own power Andrew was. He genuinely thought he was invincible and above the law and that he could do absolutely whatever he liked. And I spoke to Matt Wilkinson, who wrote that article for The Sun today when you sent it over, because I wanted to see if I could glean any more information off him. He essentially told me what was back in that article, but it's quite interesting, the point of the security issue there, because apparently, you know, there wasn't much security in place, and you would think that places like Buckingham Palace, Royal Lodge were very, very highly protected places, but actually, because this behavior was so conspicuous, he would sort of just get them in via staff entrances, get these women in via staff entrances, via back doors without security checks, which is a massive national security risk, especially when we're talking about a lot of Eastern European women with, you know, potential ties to the Russian government. I'm just speculating here. But this is beyond irresponsible. It's irreprehensible behavior from Andrew, and he was able to get away with it for years. And I just feel sorry for those poor staff having to use those sick code names of Mrs. Windsor, which showed how much he just lived off that title. He really lived off it. That was his only cachet, his only trading chip for people like Epstein and others. So, I mean, you can hear from Virginia Giuffre's testimony within her book, you know, she said it was his princely right to have sex with me, or that's how he felt.
God.
That tells you all you need to know about someone like Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, the guy thought he was invincible. He thought, I've got all the power in the world. I'm a member of the royal family. I can do whatever the heck I want. It's just sickening. Look, let's talk about the fallout. And I will warn our viewers, a trigger warning, the next pictures you may find even more distressing. Here is Pantless Peter. Oh, dear. Pantless Peter, I know, isn't it? I mean, put some bloody pants on. Pantless Peter Mandelson, the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer's former US ambassador, pride almost on display, Samara, as he's pictured there in his underwear. Now, this was released in the latest tranche of the Epstein files and apparently taken at Epstein's apartment in Paris. Peter Mandelson called Jeffrey Epstein my best pal, even in a 50th birthday letter. And then there's this one, Mandelson in his robe. Good grief, having a good old chat with the sex offender. Look, between Pantless Peter, Mandelson and On All Fours Andrew, I don't know whose picture is worse right now, but we have a situation where Mandelson has been asked to give evidence at US Congress about that friendship with Epstein.
Yes, Mandelson is actually facing the full force of the law here. And that is sort of interesting because our Prime Minister, who very much was on resignation watch last week because he obviously appointed Peter Mandelson, this guy here, who I know in Australia it's probably like, who is he? But this is someone who was really behind our Labour movement over in the UK. This is someone who fostered a lot of the Labour kingpins that now run the country today. So he had a lot of power behind the scenes, and he was always dodgy. I mean, he'd been fired 4 times before by 3 different prime ministers. So he was always a dodgy fellow. And that's why people do question our prime minister's judgment in putting him in that ambassadorial role to the US. And that's now why Keir Starmer, our prime minister, has put a lot of pressure on Mandelson to go and do this. Now, it's a good question. What will come out of this? I mean, Mandelson knows exactly where the bodies are buried, so to speak, and, had a lot of skeletons in his closet himself. So we will just kind of wait and see what comes out of that. But at this point, he's got nothing to lose. He's lost absolutely all credibility. He'll never be allowed anywhere near Westminster or any sort of realm of power ever again. So I think in some ways he's been thrown directly under the bus by Keir Starmer in order for Keir Starmer to save his position. But that was always going to happen with what came out in the files. But I just think that he could be almost like a live wire at this point. He could be a bomb that is not yet detonated, and who knows what he'll say.
Well, who knows? But yeah, you're right. I mean, he has nothing to lose right now. So why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? Get your popcorn ready, because God knows if he does actually appear at US Congress, what he might say. But what baffles me here, Samara, is that Keir Starmer still hired him. even though he knew there was enough evidence mounting that he knew of that close friendship with Epstein. And now, Keir Starmer's going, oh, he misled me. And Keir Starmer last week frantically apologising. You still hired him, you fool. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's inexplicable really to think about, but I think it's because of how much power Mandelson had over everyone within Labour. And it's interesting because Morgan McSweeney, who again is someone no one will know because he's an operator behind the scenes and not even people in the UK know, but this is someone who was the puppeteer of Keir Starmer and totally pulling all the strings behind the scenes. He was Keir Starmer's advisor. He's also had to go over this Mandelson issue. So essentially what happened was, against what the security clearances said, what MI5 said, what government security agencies, even the US had some sort of say in it. They all said, why are you making Mandelson the ambassador? For some unknown reason, Keir Starmer and his advisor totally overrode all that and wanted to give him this cushy job. And I think that's because they feel that they owe Mandelson something in some strange, confected way. And I just think that we need to be very wary in the future of these power players behind the scenes who almost treat countries as if they are their own cash cows, and make sure that they get these cushy positions, these coveted roles, and don't face any consequences for it. And in my opinion, that's what Mandelson, the former Prince of Darkness, as he was known around Westminster, really is.
Good. The Prince of Darkness. I mean, well.
Yeah, that could have been also something for Starmer to think about.
Hello. The warning signs are there. If that is your nickname, the Prince of Darkness, maybe just sit back and have a think. Is that the sort of person you want as your ambassador? Really think about that one, Keir, but no, not quite smart enough. Now, I want to ask you about Sarah Ferguson. Look, this is, of course, Andrew's ex-wife. She's in a world of pain over this. Now, we know from emails that she sent to Epstein that she called him the brother I have always wished for. She said, you are a legend. I really don't have the words to describe my love, gratitude for your generosity and kindness. And then she said, kiss, kiss. I am at your service. Just marry me. Even her daughters, they've been dragged in, including one exchange where an unnamed person mentions Eugenie's shagging weekend in an email to Epstein. I actually feel really sorry for her daughters, I feel like they are just carrying the burden of their embarrassing parents. But Samara, Sarah's now moved to the United Arab Emirates, so she's not making much money, but she's reportedly scouting around for a new PR team to represent her, saying that she wants to return to the UK. But what could she possibly do? That would be the question. If she goes back to the UK, she's an embarrassment. Her reputation's in ruins. So where does it leave her, really?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I've kind of been saying this for a while, but I actually think she's one of the biggest issues for the royal family at the moment, because she, again, similar to Mandelson, knows a lot of information and has nothing to lose. And she's money hungry at the moment. So I think that there will be an opportunistic book deal that potentially comes into play, where she'll be offered an amount of money for a tell-all book. We know that she's she does love something like that she can live off for a little bit. She will reveal certain things. She'll try and paint herself out as the victim, but she'll definitely throw a couple people under the bus. And I think that's what'll happen to Fergie, because we know, most of Andrew's issues stemmed from Fergie's insane lavish lifestyle that she demanded. I mean, the credit card bills, millions of pounds in debt that she found herself in. I mean, the main reason, those very famous paparazzi photos of Epstein and Andrew walking through Central Park in New York, that meeting was revealed to have been Andrew asking for money to pay off Fergie's credit card bills. So I think she should also testify in front of the Congress, and she should absolutely be talking to authorities, because I think she knows a lot too, but she clearly hasn't been sort of caught in the same line of fire as Andrew has. I mean, you're right, her emails are sickly towards Epstein. She loved the lavish lifestyle that he provided, so much so that, yes, I would say she put her daughters, who were not children at the time, but they were young women almost in harm's way, and met up with him after he was convicted of pedophile offenses. So Fergie, yes, she's gone over to the Middle East. A lot of people speculate Andrew will also go over to the Middle East. But let's see for them. I think the only saving grace for Fergie is that she was able to sort of have her daughters in a great position to socially mountaineer themselves up. And they've basically married very wealthy people that she could potentially live off. But she's homeless at the moment. She doesn't even have a house. I mean, she's been cut out. The royal family is not protecting her.
No, well, she's self-exiled. I mean, if you're going into the Middle East, you're self-exiling out of sheer embarrassment. And if Andrew joins her, well, gosh, I feel sorry for the UAE. Look, before we let you go, Samara, I want to ask you, where does this leave the monarchy? Is it over for them? Because have a look at this. This was the king getting heckled last week.
Charles, how long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you been protecting Andrew from prosecution?
Yeah, look, it's uncomfortable to see that. It's uncomfortable to watch, but this is not a good look for the monarchy.
It's really bad. You know, over here in Britain, the economy is in a time of total austerity. You know, people are feeling the real hip pocket of the whole situation. So to hear, you know, just from a public optics perspective, that there's been millions paid out of the at least just out of the royal family in order to cover up Andrew is not boding well with the public at all. And that's not the first heckling that the king has received, and it certainly won't be the last, unfortunately, for him. But look, I mean, the king had a sort of place to play in this. He did have some sort of implication, in my opinion. I mean, I was just watching an interview with Andrew Lowney again, who's very versed on this, who said that, you know, the king actually did pay into that money pot that was given to Virginia Giuffre, as we spoke about earlier. So if that comes out as true, then who knows what can happen there. Now, people are even saying that, you know, there might potentially be us just skipping on to William just to avoid any of this, because he's at least further enough away from all this drama. But the monarchy, I don't think it's a scandal like this has not hit it for a very, very long time. And the fact that they paid off that alleged victim in order to potentially just make sure that the Queen's birthday celebrations for that year went smoothly just makes me think what actually has been covered up for all these years and what is really going on behind the scenes here.
Yeah, a lot of questions, and we just don't have the answers right now, but maybe we might eventually, should these characters appear at US Congress. We don't know. Samara Gill, it's been a pleasure having you on. I must say, buckle up, because things are about to get worse with these names dropping. Let's see where it ends. Samara, good to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Danica.
That's it for Danica Goes Global. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back again next week, and make sure you subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.